Welcome to the Money on Steroids podcast. This is Mirwan, your host. This is the podcast where we talk about alternative ways of investing, whether it's real estate, corporations, taxes, trading. And today I have a very special guest, a friend of mine, Bassem, who has a very interesting story, who lived in 11 different countries. I was counting this morning. It's unbelievable. And Bassem lives in Estonia and he invests in UK with a very interesting technique, which is converting homes into multi-occupation places, renting by the room. Bassem, welcome.
Thank you, Marwan. Thank you for the very nice introduction.
That was a very short one. When I look at your story, that was actually nothing. So Bassem, before digging into real estate, what brought you to real estate and what you are doing in the UK? So you live now in Estonia, right?
Yeah, correct.
But before that, you lived in 10 different countries.
It
And
seems so. I didn't never counted them, but you mentioned 11, so now I'm keen to maybe if I tell you what they are, maybe we'll count them again. I don't know. Yeah.
yeah, so let's start with that. So you were born in Lebanon.
Yes, I was born in Beirut. Yeah. And then when the civil war started in Lebanon, we moved to Egypt. We lived in Egypt because my dad had business there, so it was the most logical place to go to. And then went back to Lebanon. Then I went to the US to do my university. From the US, I went to Dubai. From Dubai, I went to Oman, Muscat. I lived there for a year with one of the jobs. Then back to Dubai, then to Cyprus. From Cyprus, I went to the UK. From the UK, I went back to Dubai. From Dubai, I went to Nigeria. From Nigeria, I went back to the UK. Then I went to Algeria, where I met you, and we
Yeah.
worked together. And then came back to the UK, and then I went to Hong Kong, and now I'm in Estonia.
And that, I think oh, you moved back to the UK from Hong Kong, right? Or you
No,
moved
no,
from Hong Kong to
directly,
Estonia?
directly to Estonia, yeah.
Yeah, I see a lot of tax havens there. Was that on purpose or?
Well, definitely coming back to Estonia without going to the UK definitely had to do something with taxes. Most of the other moves were based on my job. My job moved me to these countries, and I just moved with the job. Luckily, with a multinational, they do what they call, tax equalization. So you don't pay in the same places, in both places, and you end up benefiting a little bit. But Dubai was, it wasn't around tax, it was more about opportunities and finding a nice job, having a nice and high quality of life in a place that is multicultural. When you live in different places, you appreciate different cultures, different nationalities, and your circle of friends and associates become much wider. And yeah, I like that about Dubai.
Very true. Yeah, we talk
Yeah.
a lot about Dubai in this podcast.
How do
We
you?
shot the first episodes there.
Ah,
My wife doesn't want to move there. I'm trying to convince her, but it's gonna take me a bit of time. Maybe I'll get your advice on that. Um, so 11 countries. If you had to pick one, which one would be the best?
the one I forgot to mention is France, actually, because while I was in Lagos, the family stayed in France. So I was commuting between, but I never like stayed there a full year. That's why sometimes it goes out of my mind. But yeah, France. It would be probably, I mean, we had a house in the south of France, so it was amazing. From how it looks, how it feels, probably that kind of life I would want. Don't know about necessarily south of France. It's quite expensive, and but something similar would be nice. But from the ones I lived in, I would say the one I feel like is home is the UK. I just know it. I feel nice about it. It's very convenient to travel from it. It's not really a developed country. It's more like a third world country when it comes to transport and to infrastructure. But somehow it's there. But yeah, for me, it's between the UK and a place that is Mediterranean. I love that about Algiers. You know, obviously I'm from Beirut, so we have the same thing. So for me, I need sea, pine trees, olive trees, and Mediterranean, and I'm very happy. These are the three requirements. So that
I hear
definitely
you.
not staying in Estonia.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I hear you. The smell of the sea, you have it in your blood. When you're born with it, yeah, you
yeah,
can't get away. It's
correct.
something special.
Yeah.
So that makes it 12, Bassem. I didn't have France on my list, so
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
that makes it 12. All right. So, when you were in Dubai, so now you have a large family, which I would call a large family, right? With how many kids?
Well, I have five kids, and
Five
with
kids.
my current partner, she has two, so we can say seven in total.
That's
But I mean, it's a yeah. My kids are grown now. My youngest are gonna be 21. I have twins as young ones. They're gonna be 21 in January. So they're not really. I mean, they will always be kids to you, but you know, to me. But they're grown up. They're independent. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm 40 and my mom always, talks to me like a small kid. So, and I think your kids are also in the same path. You got two that are living in Australia, right?
I have two that live in Sydney and three currently in the UK. But yeah, the traveling is in their blood, this seeing the world. I think traveling is in our blood. We love to travel, we love to see the world, experience different cultures, eat different foods, meet different people with different habits, and and the way they look at the world. It just, it makes you feel like you're such a small thing in this big scheme, in the big scheme of things. And yeah, kids are the same. They love traveling. They love to live in different places. I don't know where they will end up. I don't know where I will end up myself. But yeah,
Is this a Lebanese thing? Because we were talking last time about, having more Lebanese outside Lebanon than in Lebanon. You guys traveled a lot.
yeah. I mean, we had to, right? Given the situations in our countries,
Yeah.
when you look at the history, different, let's say, religious groups or parts of society felt persecuted at some point or another, and they decided to leave the country from the time of the Ottomans. And so that's why, from the time of the Ottomans, this you know immigration started. Let's say emigration, and that's why you find a lot in Brazil and US and Africa, because these people left in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and they settled there just to find a better life rather than being stuck under Ottoman rule at the time. And but they never lost their contact with Lebanon. That's why they consider themselves Lebanese, and in polls and censuses and all this, they say they are Lebanese, and that's why you have, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there is like 5.5 million in Lebanon and around 10 million or more outside of
Wow.
Lebanese, origin. Yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive. Um, so we usually don't like talking about corporate life in this podcast because, you know, corporate life might be boring and we want to encourage people to start entrepreneurship because that's the way to have your money on steroids. But you had a very rich corporate life. How did that start? Like you spent so many years with British American Tobacco where we met. So how did that start and what do you think you got from it? Like what was the best that you got from your corporate life?
Yeah. I mean, I started in the tobacco industry in '93, in Dubai, actually, in Oman. The first job was, I was based in Oman as country manager. And then I stayed with that company about, it was called RJ Reynolds Tobacco at the time. And, I stayed 7 years with them. This is when I was based in Dubai and Muscat. And then I left in 2000 when JTI bought Reynolds, and they did some, restructuring and all that. I left. It was my opportunity to go to the UK. My ex-wife is British, and we decided to go and live there, so that I can settle there and get the citizenship and all that, since we didn't have a place to go to. And there I actually was my first attempt at being an entrepreneur. I bought a franchise in the hospitality business, coffee shop, restaurant. I bought two at the time and I ran them. It was hard work, but really fun to be your own boss. Definitely at the time I was thinking I'm not gonna go back to corporate life. I will do it, but with the hospitality business in the UK, when you don't have the mentality of service and all that, it wasn't easy to you know to just like really make it, because you always had to rebuild the team, and you're always running out of things. Anyway, at some point, we were having twins all of a sudden, after having already three children. And I thought to myself, do I have time to run this business if I have to help with the work? And also, the UK is not the best place to have home help. So I thought, Dubai would be a good place, but then I'll need to be employed at the time. And I got into BAT in 2004. I applied, they took me with my experience and my entrepreneurial mindset. And that was amazing. For me, if just to summarize quickly why I like it, first of all, the culture was amazing. You meet people from all over the world. I mean, the number of nationalities that I know just by working in BAT, not necessarily by living in different places in the same office, because they move people all around. I've learned it's a very well run company in terms of processes and compliance, and quite responsible. Although people will have different views about tobacco, but as a company, how it's run, it's quite run really well. And so you learn a lot of things. You learn, the best maybe marketing processes, sales, and how to get the numbers right and all that kind of thing. So it gives you a very good base when you want to start your own business to have like a different way of looking at things. The only thing that probably when you start working on your own you miss is the support system that you have on the corporate side. You have people who can run numbers for you. You have people who can take care of finding you a place to live when you move to a new country. Da, da, da. All of a sudden, you become on your own and you miss all this. You have to do this all over again on your own. Luckily, I have learned from my experience when I moved to the UK in 2000, but you still miss it. Like when I moved here, I missed having a PA to help me with so many things, booking or finding some, it's just small things that can take the worry off your mind.
Very true. Very true. I can relate to that. We started that business, that trading passive, and I spent so many years in the corporate life, and BAT was definitely a great experience. I learned so much in just 3 years. I mean, if it was me, I wouldn't have left the company, but I mean, I was moving to Canada, as you know, so I had no choice. But yeah, it was learning on steroids. I mean, if you pick the right company with the right mindset, and as you said, with so many people, diverse cultures, diverse, personalities, and they get the best because, I mean, let's be honest, tobacco industry pays very well, so they can afford to get probably among the best in any market. So that was definitely a great experience. So if for example, you had to give an advice to someone starting his life, maybe his corporate life, what would be the best advice you would give him?
Um, I think the best advice is to be yourself and have the right attitude. Some people join companies and they have a lot of skills that are mostly academic or from one job. So they have the attitude that I know everything and I'm gonna like make this company change it and without learning as much. Or they would be too senior and they still again they don't want to learn. So for me it's have the right attitude, be yourself and be nice, be kind. You don't have to be mean to be successful. You don't have to be shouting and aloof and not listen to your people's problems and all that. So for me, being nice really helped me. I consider myself a nice person, and I get the same feedback. It never hurt me. Some people have different views. You have to be sharp, mean, and this and that. You have to be serious, and you have to take the right decision, and you have to be firm when people don't listen or they don't do. But you don't have to have this as the default approach. You can become like this if somebody doesn't do what they have to do, but you can get much more out of people if you're nice. And so my advice is be nice, make friends, and make friends within the company in all functions, because these are the people that will help you. Somebody will remember and say, oh, Marwan, he when we had this meeting together, he was this way. Maybe you should consider him for this promotion or whatever. And it worked for me, and I'm sure it will work for the best. But unfortunately, a lot of people, the moment they get hired in a big company, they have a change of demeanor.
Okay, so when you say being nice, some people, as you said, might disagree with you because that could be taken as a weakness. I totally agree with you. I think being nice to people helps a lot. It helped us both in our career and also after our career. I mean, you have a longer career than me, so you have more experience. I'm not saying older, Bassem. No, I'm not getting there. But how do you draw the line between being nice and maybe being too nice or too easygoing?
Yeah. I mean, it takes with first of all, let's say I'm dealing with my team, with my own people who report to me. I actually sit everybody and tell them what my style is and what I expect, and don't take it for granted that I'm nice. So I set it very clearly. I'll say I will be smiling. I'll say hi every time. I will not close the door and not have you walk into my office. All these small things that show rank and show who is higher and all these kind of things. I will be very open about these things. And but when you don't you take advantage of this nicety, believe me, you will feel that you have done it. So I guess being too nice is not being able to draw the line and not manage expectations from the beginning. And again, at the end of the day, our job as leaders and managers is to get something done through people, not despite people. So it's not about forcing somebody to do what they have to do because you're so strong, and I am the one who you're supposed to delegate. You're supposed to develop the team. How can people develop if they don't make mistakes and they learn from it? Now, if you approach that mistake in a very nasty way, people will be scared. So, is this what you want? For me, no. I would want people to respect me. I have people, just to give you one thing, when I went to Nigeria, and it was my first cluster role rather than one country, and I was in the leadership team of this West Africa team. And I was in the corporate affairs function at the time. And we achieved a lot of things. And on my farewell party, the team, were thanking me for the time and all this. And one of them said to me, your way of dealing with us, do you know why we performed and we did everything we could? I said, why? They said, because we would feel ashamed if we did not make you succeed the way you were. It's like you made us want you to succeed. And so it wasn't like because I'm shouting or they will be fired or they will be demoted or they whatever. It's actually they wanted they really wanted to do the job because they were so embarrassed to let me down. So you know it's a different way of doing a job, right? And how you feel about going to the office every day, and you know you're not as stressed. It's important. I think people don't appreciate that enough.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's the big difference between a boss and a leader. A leader would bring people together and get them to work for the same objectives. And so many people would work for that particular person. And if that person leaves
Yeah,
and someone with a different style comes in, the performance might drop. Like I've seen this so many times. I'm sure you've seen it so many times. Yeah, the management style is something key in life, and to me, it applies also in your family life. You know, if you want to bring your kids together, you got to be nice
Correct.
but still firm. You know, if you don't do your homework, there's going to be consequences. But I'll show you the love, and work is also about love. You know, you show people love, and they're going to show you love in the right way. It's not about, playing a game. Still have to be true. I mean, there's fake people, obviously. I don't think you're, not I don't think you are not the kind of the kind of people who would fake, their feelings or whatever. Now, you got into entrepreneurship recently. I'm not talking about the real estate, but you have a new venture right now. How are you dealing with your partners, or the people who are involved in that business? Is it the same way, or do you had to adjust your style? Or maybe you can start by talking a little bit about that business if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like my most of my experiences in the tobacco industry, so I'm actually doing something on my own in that domain, where I have identified manufacturer, I have identified clients, and I'm actually representing this manufacturer for certain markets, and I'm dealing with them. Of course, I have partners in those markets because I'm not just putting everything together, and I deal with them. But to go back, because it's something you mentioned in the point before, and I want to take it into this point, it's this consistency as a person. I am consistently the same person. I am the same person at home. I'm the same person in the corporate life, and I'm the same person in my entrepreneurial. I don't have a persona that I come into work and I change how I am. This is how I am. And again, so I'm not saying being nice is always like I think on the total, it's a much more positive approach. But does it have its drawbacks? Yes, sometimes people take advantage. By the time you correct it, you could have lost some time. But I'd rather be this way and have the bigger picture better rather than be the other person. And again, it's about consistency. So the way I deal with my partners is very similar. I'm quite firm. I'm not, again, I want to differentiate between being nice and being, soft, and like I'm too shy to ask you for something. Or if I need a deadline and I want it to be done, I would do it. I would remind you. I would tell you, like what I think of it if you don't do it on time. All of this is happening. It's just how it's, because it's like, it's not what you're saying. It's not why you're saying it. It's how you're saying it. And for me, the how is an important element, part of my personality, of my approach, and how I deal with things. So um, again, do I lose my patience sometimes? Yes, I do. But believe me, when you're nice and you lose your patience, people know that they screwed up big time, because they know that to get you to this point, they really have gone to that level. So there are levels of losing your patience also. How much you can. It shows. When you're asking for something, or when you're disappointed because somebody didn't deliver. It's yeah. So long answer for a short question.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you're saying. I'm sure so many people will get a lot from that. Another business where being nice is probably not the best way to go, or being too soft is probably not the best way to go, is real estate, right? I mean, you started in this business a while ago. I think that was when you lived in Hong Kong, right?
Correct.
And it's weird because I don't see many people still friends with their ex-wives and also investing with their ex-wives, right? So that's what you're doing. Tell me a bit about that. Like, how did you get into real estate, and how did you get to work with your ex-wife, which is
Well,
surprising.
I mean, the first time we worked in real estate was when we were based in Dubai, and it was the first Dubai boom of real estate and all that. And she's very much into property and real estate. So she started doing that business. But obviously, because we were investing our money, I was involved in decisions and how we talk about them and stuff. And we got some investors and we worked in that part. And I know she has an eye for property, for locations, for potential, in terms of, having something that doesn't look like much at the moment, but how it could be and all that. So, and again, so you have to have trust in the person, because I'm not based in the UK, although I'm a British citizen, but I'm living here. And yes, she's my ex-wife, but luckily we were both mature and, civilized about how the separation happened, for the kids, for us, for all that. And, and it's different. It's now business, business, but I know that person. I know how she thinks. I know how she chooses things, and she knows me, and how, like, there is the honesty, there is a trust, from that point of view. So when I was in Hong Kong, she had started to do this business for herself in the UK. And, just to give a brief summary of how this business works, basically, it's buying a property, in the UK. It could be already residential for, single occupancy. It could be a residential place for multiple occupancy, or it could be a commercial place. So obviously, buying each one of them has a different approach, and what it means in terms of time until you can start doing the work, because of the change of use of these properties. At the time when I was in Hong Kong, she was investing in property that already had multiple, occupancy use, and she was looking for, some financing to start with. I was looking to start something, so that when I leave the company, I have something that I started already. I don't want to wait until I leave and then start looking what I want to do. So we discussed it, and in the beginning, I did a combination of an angel finance, like I finance her at an interest rate and she gives me a return, and I invested to become a partner. But to invest to become a partner, we had to form a company, because for tax purposes, it's much better that a company buys the property rather than a person. So we formed a company, and this company now would go ahead and buy the property and do the conversion, all that. And here we are today. So I'm continuing the same business that I started in Hong Kong.
So how did she get the knowledge? Because it's a niche that not everyone is aware about. Like UK is not an easy market to invest in. Having cash flow, especially like, if you buy a house and you rent it out, you're not making money. Am I right in that?
Yeah, if you're buying it, right away, like, as a one house, and, by the time you put the deposit and you borrow money and the mortgage and the fees, so yeah, you have to have the right interest rate, the right mortgage, the right rent, and all that, to get some kind of yield that is acceptable, which is normally in the UK is between 3 and 5%. If you can get that, depending on what type of mortgage you're getting. So, but, to do it. So the question was, how did she get this knowledge? Basically, she went on an intensive course in this type of investment, and then, obviously they do a lot of simulations and all that, and then from that, she, hired a mentor, one very, like, known investor in that circle, and he became her advisor. Obviously, she pays him. It's not a free
Yeah.
mentor, but she pays him, and he advises her on in the beginning on each purchase. If she finds it very complicated financially, she will, book time, discuss it. Gives her advice what's the best way to go about it, and then she will decide whether to go for it or not.
Okay. So that was knowledge on steroids. I love that. You take a shortcut, you take one course, you take a mentor, and you get his whole knowledge, and he's available for you. Most of the time, from what I've seen, it's a 3-4 years shortcut where you get all the mistakes that he made, and you get all the big deals, and the jewels that he can drop. So that's definitely something I would encourage anyone to do. I'm not selling a course here. I'm just saying, hey guys, if you have the opportunity to get a course in any field you want to explore, just do it. Find the right mentor and do it, because it worked for me. It worked for your wife, or sorry, your ex-wife, and I'm sure it's gonna work for anyone who finds the right person. So I wanna dig more into how you're doing it. So you're buying, you're repurposing, basically, you're rezoning the house, dividing it into multiple multiple rooms, if I say that, if I can say that, uh, and then you go and refinance
Yes.
with a commercial mortgage.
Yeah. So at the moment, what we're focusing on is, either going for something that is really like a good deal as a residential or a commercial property. Commercial properties are at the moment a lot to be sold in the UK, empty after COVID and all that. So we have lots of either shops or office buildings or all that, because people are not working from offices, that are up for sale. And because the town center doesn't, they don't want it to be empty. They are being more flexible about converting something from commercial to residential. So you have two conversions. You have to convert to residential, and then from the residential you have to convert to multiple home of multiple occupancy. So you have to have the right team. You have to have the right consultant that deals with the planning people. You have to have the right architect, the right builder, yeah, that can do the work and fast and up to the standards that you want. And obviously a good agent that can get you people to rent the places. So these people in the beginning are difficult to get, but once you have that team, you work with them as much as you can. And so this was in place for specific geography in the UK. And so we focused on that because there was demand. But the new thing that we did that is different from the property that we invested when I was in Hong Kong, and this one, is that now we're creating almost like a micro flat, what we call a micro flat. And so this micro flat is top notch in terms of everything is there. It's fully furnished, like really good quality. You have Wi-Fi, you have Netflix, you have everything. And you have your own small kitchen and a bathroom. So not like the old one where there was common areas for the kitchen or the bathrooms to be shared or something like this. This is each one is like a very small flat. It's smaller than a studio. It's a but in depending on you need the demographic profile of people who are working single, or people who have a family house somewhere else, but they have to be based during the week in a place, that they have to be there, and it's much cheaper than a hotel. So you end up, we don't have any vacancies, and you're talking about people that rent it, and if somebody gives you notice they need to get out, usually there are people in the queue to rent it out again. So that's because we're renting out micro flats that are niche and high, upmarket in terms of what they are. It's good. So you buy the property, you finance initially, or you have to put 25% from your, and you have to have a finance just to buy it. And if you have the money to refurbish yourself, you put your own money. Otherwise, you borrow refurbishment finance, to borrow against the refurbishment. Obviously, you want to do it as fast as possible because you're paying interest on all these finances. Once you have it, based on the business model and what is in the market and how much they are renting, you get a value that is a commercial value, for based on the rent that you are getting per year. You take out the usual cost, and then they capitalize it and they lend you up to 75% of that value. In general, that value, that loan that you end up, let's say the 75% that you get, usually it's enough to give you back your 25%. It gives you back the money that you borrowed initially for both the refurbishment and the 75% of the cost of the property, and there is some money left with you.
Yeah.
You can use that money if you're on a roll to buy other properties. You're borrowing it anyway and you're paying for it. You can take it and put it as a down payment on something else if you don't have the cash yourself. Or you can reduce your mortgage. You can get a mortgage that is exactly what you need. Based on that, this mortgage that I'm telling you about, there is a positive cash flow. from the rent. So you have, how much rent you're making, the fees, the management fees, all these kind of things, minus the mortgage, and still there is a positive cash flow. And our aim is to have enough cash flow to live off on a monthly basis. And then with time, start reducing the mortgage to bring it down to a level that is equal to the property itself if you have to sell it only as property
Mm,
rather than as a
mm.
business, so that this way you don't have to worry about having too much financing. That's a very quick way of explaining the model of how we're doing it.
I love this approach because actually you're over leveraging, if I must say, and maybe we should explain how mortgages work between residential and commercial. So residential is usually based on comparables. So how many houses sold in the same area for how much? How do they compare to the house you're selling? And that's what the bank will go with. And it comes with an appraisal, and the appraiser would look at different houses in the area. And I'm talking about this for our viewers who are not very familiar with how it works. When you go for a commercial mortgage, it's based on the finances only, which means, that even though the property is worth, let's say, $600,000, but based on the cap rate, which is the capitalization rate, and which is based on the NOI, the net operating income. It's like a company. So you take a multiplier, usually based on the area you live in. The best the area, the lower the cap rate, so the higher the value. And at the end of the day, you're getting a mortgage based on the profits you're making on that property. So you could end up with, for that same 600,000 property, with a million or $1.2 million in value, because it generates so much money. And the risk with this is, when you're going way over the real value of the property, sometimes you're over leveraging yourself. So how do you deal with that risk? Like, as you were saying, I think you guys, like, you're expanding, and then most of the profits will go into reducing that mortgage, right?
Yeah. So at the moment, we're still in the beginning. So first of all, as you all know, in the whole world, we've been going through a period of very high interest rates. So only now they are bringing them down, and in the UK, they haven't brought them down that much because they've been holding to the rate. So we're also holding. So if we're not happy with the numbers, we're not going to just invest for the sake of it. The plan, because we're still in the beginning, is in the beginning we will expand and over leverage, but eventually, because if you, like you said, if it's 600, it could be 1 million, 1.2. We find that usually that commercial value ratio to the property value ratio is about twice, like two. So let's say, so you get twice as much mortgage for the property. You borrow 75%, so you're exposed in reality over the property by 25, like 50% more than the property, let's say, extra. We don't borrow the 75. We can borrow up to 75. We try to go at around 70, and we want to bring it down slowly, to 65, then eventually to 60, and all, to get as close as possible to the 50%. And when it's 50, at the time you want to exit, if you need to exit, you can either sell it as a business, and people, then you get the price for it, and you can pay off the mortgage easily, and even make money. Worst case scenario, you pay as a property. You sell it as just a property, and then whatever money you made, and then you pay back the mortgage, and you don't make any capital gain because you've made money from the cash flow over the years. So that is the approach that we are using at the moment. Yes.
Yeah, the main issue people face with commercial properties is the liquidity. They're not as liquid as residential properties. So if you want to put it in the market, you want to find the right buyer. So I like when it's a long-term vision, which is basically the case in your side, and you're reducing the risk. You're not looking for instant profit, which you could get. flipping a property or whatever, but you're looking first for the cash flow, which is, in my opinion, and I think your opinion as well, should be mandatory. Like, you should never invest in something that's losing money on a monthly basis, but also investing for the long term, especially in areas where there is sustained growth. I mean, we're talking about the UK. It's a mature market. It's not. We're not talking about Dubai, for example.
Yeah,
Dubai is a
correct.
little bit riskier.
Yeah,
We met people doing subleasing, which is different from what you're doing. But I like the way you're doing it. I call that infinite returns, because you
it is
cannot
exactly that.
divide anything by zero, because you're getting all your money out.
Exactly. All your money is out. You can put it into something else, or you can have it in the bank if you want, which I wouldn't. But I mean, if you so and but you talked about flipping. We looked at the flipping side also, because some properties that we looked at commercially, they are commercial, so they were offices, but they're very big. So they're like two, three buildings attached to each other. If you take this one, the value that the location and the value are very appealing. So you want to invest in that place. If you convert it into those micro flats, it will be too many flats in the same place. Now, yes, we know that the model is working, but how many can we rent? So we looked at converting it more into like apartments, studios, one bedroom, two bedroom, and stuff like this, and selling it based on the current price of a one bedroom, uh, whatever. And financially, it makes so much more sense. Now, the sale didn't go through with because there was a, when you dig with the lawyers about, what you need to do and all that, sometimes you find, for example, there is an estate that owns the place, and they have some certain requirements or whatever, and then there are fees to be paid that were not in the business model that we had, so we decided to not to go. But as we were moving, we went so far as almost like securing the loan and everything. It was going to be buy, refurbish, and sell. Now the selling apartment here, so I think the total was 8 apartments in total. It's not going to happen like that, the moment you finish the place. It's going to take some time. Versus the rental, because you start marketing it before, almost the moment you are ready, you're almost full, 50%, 60%. Then it adds up very quickly, and you start making money on a monthly basis. The other one, it's I don't know how fast it will sell, and so that was something that we needed to take into account. We're paying this mortgage that we borrowed to do this refurbishment and all that, but we until you sell all of them, that you make a very nice return.
Yeah,
So
that's the number one mistake I see flippers doing, is not estimating very well the holding costs and the
yes,
soft costs and everything that's related to that. Because the thing, like, hey, I'm gonna flip it, I'm gonna sell it day one. Well, sometimes the market doesn't go your way, and you're
correct.
paying that mortgage, and you might take a loss at the end of the day. So that's very wise from you guys.
Yeah.
You're also using something I love, which is OPM, other people's money. How how do you get to convince people to invest with you or to lend you money?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the lending money is probably more appropriate for the UK at the moment, just because of the requirements. So I am a British citizen, and that helps me be a director, or you can be a shareholder of a company if you're not a British citizen, but to be a director you have to be. And to borrow today, when you're a small, we're not a huge company. To borrow, they still look at the directors, and they want some kind of personal guarantee from you. When so if everything goes pear shaped, they will go after you personally. So for investing in the UK for non-UK citizens, I think it's very complicated, and will complicate how we can borrow from that. Um, what the other one is lending, being an angel investor, lending the business money so that we can, either get a better faster rather than go through a bank and all that, but without equity to the person who is lending us money. We usually do it based on the business that we have a business plan for the property. We show history, we show experience, we show comparables in the market, we show what we have done with our own properties and why it would work. And then you draw a contract between you and the person who is lending you the money. You give them a good return, much better than the bank. And we've done it. This is how I went into it the first time, like I said, and then eventually I became a partner because I saw I wanted some monthly cash flow, not just to put some money and get some return at the end of the period. So yeah, we have people from mainly from Dubai that are interested in this. Some of them are more interested in the equity side, but we can't, it complicates things. By the time you get all the approvals and stuff, the people who are selling you the property don't want to sell you anymore. So it's better, for speed and ease of process, we decided to focus on more um, get lending from people rather than to get them as equity shareholders. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how long does a project take on average, the ones that you were talking about?
Look, I mean, average, I would say between the time you find the property and you are able to rent it because of the negotiations and all that, I would say between 6 and 9 months.
That's not bad. With
Yeah.
all the conversions done and everything,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not bad.
If you're
Uh,
very lucky, 6 months. If you're not, 9 months. Okay, some of them will go to a year, but we asked for like an average, so it will be between 6 and 9. I would say 9 is a good
yeah.
number. Yeah.
And how is it dealing with the cities and everything? And
Yeah, I mean, despite having a consultant, sometimes you get surprises. Now, I haven't bought a property since the election, so I don't know how the like the people who are in there, have they changed how they deal with you and all that. So we're testing it at the moment to see how things are. But yes, sometimes they tell you you have a pre-approval and then you don't get the approval. Then you reapply again, then you get the approval. It's the nature of these things, I guess. Sometimes, yeah, it's it's frustrating, but that's why you want to deal with people who
yeah, I feel your pain because I think it's all over the world, even in the most developed countries. I complain a lot about it here in Canada. Going through permits and zoning is probably the most difficult task of being a real estate
Yeah, yeah,
investor.
yeah,
And there's also a contradiction because they always praise, like, hey, we want to build more homes and we want more affordable housing, but then they double the fees. They make it more difficult to build a new home. Like it was taking me between 6 and 9 months to build a new home, like from demolishing to having tenants in. Now it's over 12 months because the process is so long. They double the fees, and it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare, and that's why we're looking into expanding to other markets, and I might consider jumping with you guys.
yeah.
So, talking about that, I'm sure you're always open and looking for partners or lenders. How can someone connect with you if they wanted to get on board?
I'll give you my business email. It's I can send it to you. You can put it in the notes later. I can send it to you
Sure.
separately.
Yeah, I can show it
Yeah, you can
on
show
the
it in the
screen here.
notes, and people can. I can also give you my UK, which is the WhatsApp number, my phone number, and they can WhatsApp me. So I can give two things if you want. Yeah,
Yeah, probably not showing the WhatsApp number because otherwise you're gonna get scammed and get so many
correct. Email. We
requests.
stick to the email. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Now, talking about other ways that you're using to invest, you're one of our clients,
I
right?
was about to say,
And
we forgot one thing, which is Trading passive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is this going for you?
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, you really have to trust the process. I mean, I invested because for two reasons. One, I know you,
Right.
and two, you showed me the numbers. You know, so it's not like,
Yeah.
okay, I can know you and you show me numbers that are horrible. I'm not going to invest. But you can show me great numbers, but I don't know you. Do I trust you or not trust you? So it's a combination of both for me. And I invested with a small amount first just to test the water and see if this thing is working. Um, Amazing. Obviously, there is a much higher return than if I would have put this money somewhere else. You really need to deal with it. Although you're not doing it on a daily basis, you cannot look at it all the time and your emotions go up and down. It's like when
Yeah.
you invest in stocks, you know, it goes up, it goes down. Unfortunately, usually the downs are more painful, even if they're not as big. But you see like up, and then you see a down that sometimes takes all the up, that for that period
Yeah.
of time. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. But I would advise people to, if they invest with you, and they should, because it's quite a good model, is to take the emotions out of it and look at it as long term, as we look at property, as we look at the business that I'm trying to do. If you take a short term view, that it doesn't mean you don't sometimes deal in short term, but your view should be a long term one. If you find an opportunity in the short term to sell and cash in, do it. But this should not be your objective, because if it is your objective, your emotions are on a roller coaster. Um, I'm as we discussed separately before, I'm going to invest more with the new model that you have, and yeah, I look forward to having some passive trading. Passive is the right title for this, passive income from that side too. But yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah.
I I am in a way semi-retired. It's in terms of, I know I'm quite young, but in terms of like not working, as even my own business is not something that I'm full time like on. The whole idea is to create some income that comes to you through your investments while enjoying life, having worked for so long in the corporate side. And I think my advice, and I tell my son the same, if I learned anything, is that you should start, if you are working in corporate life. I mean, people should not all leave their jobs just because we are entrepreneurs.
Agree.
Start doing it as you are working. Don't wait until, because it's passive. That's the whole idea. But at least,
Yeah.
the power of compound, investment, and the power of starting early when you're in your 30s and 20s, until, when you're in your 50s, how much that could mean, and the learning from it and all that. Start early, start investing. Nobody will look after you like yourself.
Very true. Very true. And diversify. Like we,
Yes.
as a trading passive, like we never ask people to put like 100% of their money in one of our bots, or in any other assets, because that's not how the investment life is. Like you still need to have like small portions or different portions. Obviously, like sometimes you can go higher. Like me, like I put more into real estate because that's how I started my journey. But now I'm reducing the exposure on the real estate and putting more into my bots and other investments as well. And also, like you can diversify in the same industry. Like investing in Canada, for example, for me, will be reduced, and then I'll start investing in different other markets. But talking about the bots, it's exactly how you said it. It's not. You do not never expect quick returns, because that's again an investment that you're making, and at the end of the day, we want people to look at the 12 months period, because that's what usually brings the highest returns. And like you can join today. I was talking to one of my friends today. He's like, "Oh, you know what? I joined in September, and it was not great in September." I'm like, "Yeah." And it depends, when you join. Like if you joined after we took 20%, and then right after that we lost 10%. Well, you lost 10%. You didn't make 10%, unfortunately. But it's gonna go up. And he was happy because he said, you know what, in 2 days, recovered everything. Like one of our bots made two take profits in 2 days of 10%. That's a 20% win. Covered all the losses. Now he's profitable. And then again, zoom out. You have the wisdom. You have definitely the experience with investing, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, look, even when you say 12 months in the investment world, that's short term, but
Very true.
but it's a good way to look at it from like your system, the bots. So if somebody wants to cash in on every 12 months, whatever profit they made, take it out, keep the capital in, or take the capital out, keep the profit, and build it slowly. Whatever strategy they have, it should be a strategy. It should be like an approach. I this is what I want to do. I want to get back my capital as soon as I can, and then whatever is there built. For example, that's one way. Or I have allocated 50,000 for the bot. Every end of year, I'll take the profit and keep 50,000. That's one
Yeah.
approach. Different approaches. So yeah, it's but 12 months is actually not that long term, but it's better than daily, right? People who they're, I even stopped all the notifications from this whole thing.
Yeah.
I stopped them, on Telegram. I don't look at the app, and even the email that I get daily, I don't look at it every day. I sometimes look at it, sometimes I don't look at it. And in general, I get pleasantly surprised. Yes,
Yeah.
sometimes I look at it on the wrong day, but
Yeah.
but who cares? It's an
Yeah.
investment.
Yeah. Yeah, I have one of our clients in Dubai. He's like, "Hey, you know what? I'm getting too emotional about this, and I'm looking at it every day, and we were not in a good streak that week, and I get it. And our bots, they win 43, 44% of the time. So they're losing more than they're winning in terms of number of trades, but they're winning 3 times what they're losing. So at the end of the day, you recover and you make more. And I told him, look, remove all the notifications. If you have the C Trader notifications, remove that. If you have the emails notifications, remove that, because it's human. You get a notification and you're like, oh, hopefully it's a good trade, and then you get another notification, stop loss hit. Well, now I can tell you he's super happy. I was talking to him yesterday. He more than recovered. He got back his investment in a week, actually. Like the first week, he got back his investment. Now he's not risk free because his money is still in the account. But I'm talking about the fee for the bot. He got it back, and now he will be soon recovering his investment or doubling his investment, and then it's a free ride. That's the beautiful stories I want to have in with trading passive, and we're heading there. All right. Now, we have a tradition in this podcast. It's called the Steroid Shot, where I'm gonna be asking you 2 questions where I need a very honest answer. You've been honest all the way. I'm not worried about that. So the first one is, if you had to give one advice to someone like a young Bassem, who's starting today, who's looking into getting into entrepreneurship and maybe contemplating a corporate life and maybe contemplating investing as well, what do you think would be the best approach for him to grow as a person and also to grow his investments?
Okay. Okay. I think first of all, whatever you're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur or a corporate thing, I think investment should be embedded in people's mind that you need to invest some money, a portion of your income on a regular basis so that you get into that habit and you start building a pot from a young age, because again we talked about the power of compounding. Whether you invest in stocks, you invest in bots, you invest in property fund, maybe in the beginning because you don't have the capital. I think that that habit of investment needs to be nurtured from a young age, because the impact later on, when you're 40 and 50 and you find how much you've made over those last 30 years or 25 years just by investing. I think this is a mindset, and it's very helpful for later on. In terms of job versus being an entrepreneur, I think people can always benefit from working in a good company to start with. Especially when you're young and you're not sure, you don't have the experience, you don't have the wisdom, you don't have the contacts. So there's nothing wrong in being employed, but you need to be employed somewhere where you're earning enough money to be living decently and being able to invest, but most importantly that you're learning something. You're learning skills, you're learning networking, you're learning about yourself, what you're good at, what you're not good at, because once you are put for the test you will be finding, oh shit, I hate writing reports, I hate doing presentations, and then whatever. Or somebody who really thrives on doing things like this. So when you know yourself, you can, it's good, because then when you go into your own business, you know what your strengths are that you can do yourself, and you know who you need to hire to complement you as a person so that you can be very successful. So I think being employed is a good at a young age, and but choose the right company. And yes, not every time you choose a business job you're going to end up in the right one, but have this open mindedness that maybe it's not the right one. Let me look for something else. But if you find the right one, stick with it for a while, because you will see also your potential and how you can grow in all this. Network as much as possible. If you're nice, as we talked before, and people like to help you, you might be building a very nice circle of friends and business potential business associates. But then I go back to this investing. If you learn the habit of investing, could be that one of your investment could be your business, or one of your, if you're interested in stocks, let's say, for example, and you invest in AI stocks, and then you find yourself learning about AI and stuff like this, you might find that you want to go into that kind of business if you have the skills and whatever, or something like that. So that would be my advice. I wish I invested more, if you're talking to the young Bassem, when I was younger. I didn't take the time to learn about investment from a young age, and I didn't invest enough at a young age. I started later. Thankfully, I did, but I wish I started earlier.
Very, very wise advice. A trickier question now.
Oof.
This is the last one, I promise. We make so many mistakes in our lives. Some mistakes are good, some mistakes are bad. If there was one mistake that someone should make, whether in business, in personal life, or whatever, and that mistake could be very beneficial for him in the future, what would it be in your opinion?
Um, I think well, I don't know if it's a mistake. It's a more of a take a risk. Don't be too risk averse. Be cautious. So I always tell people, that people like to try things for themselves, but also, and they also, when they seek advice, they're hoping to hear what they've been thinking. They don't hope to hear the real advice. If you say, can you advise me on buying this house, and you really like this house, you want the advice to be yes, buy it. If it's not yes, buy it, more likely you start finding ways why you don't agree with this advice, or maybe the person doesn't understand the situation and all these kind of things. So it's listen to the advice and keep it in the back of your mind while making that decision, rather than completely doing it the way you want it to anyway. You can, but it's going to be more expensive of a mistake, let's say. But I think put yourself forward, take a risk, and then when something happens, just move on. Life goes on. One of the things you learn as you get older is that life goes on, and all the stuff that you were worried about so much, and like it's the end of the world, it's not the end of the world. It's just it starts again. So, yeah, put yourself forward, take some risk, calculated, not stupid, and yeah, and go for it.
That's awesome. That's an awesome advice. You should be a mentor, Bassem. You should think about it. Maybe a good business for the future.
Yeah, well, I actually, it's one of my skills, in terms of what I do is I advise, I do executive coaching, and I also do mentoring for people when they are starting. I'm not an official mentor of startups, but I have people who are in starting businesses where I mentor. I love working with people to help them develop. So that's something that is a joy for me. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm.
Bassem, thank you very much for your time. Really love this discussion. We've been talking for an hour now. It's been a lovely talk. I wish you good luck
Thank you.
in your adventures. We're gonna put your contact if someone wants to get onboarded with you in the UK, investing in this uh, with this great strategy. Um, Thank you very much. Go
Thank you.
enjoy the weather in Estonia. I know it's beautifully sunny there today. Might not be the case in a few weeks, unfortunately. Same
Yeah.
here.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Marwan. It's been lovely talking to you. I think this podcast idea is amazing. Haven't seen it before, and I find that if I had this kind of exposure to something like this before, it would have been great for me. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Basim.
All right. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.